This well-known boxer just won a watch for his recent fight. It's a rare Hublot and it's £1 million. I've got a purple Lamborghini. It was so in your face, it was unbelievable.
Did you buy it to show off?
Yeah. Yes, the supercar guys have been taking watches, because watches and cars go hand in hand. Because I know a car dealer that's 30 grand out of bed, but he's bought the watches and sat on them. Breitlings are very underrated watches because they are predominantly pilot watches that have refraction on the glass. I can be across a bar or sitting on a train, and if it's a fake Breitling, you can tell.
What's the most expensive watch you've ever sold?
The most expensive watch I ever sold, and then one of the nicest watch I ever sold, was £57,000. Everybody thought I was insane for buying the watch and then trying to sell it. That watch today is worth about £157,000.
So today we are joined by Hendo from Watch Trader. Hendo, how are you doing, mate?
Very well. Thanks for the invite.
You're welcome, mate. Honestly, I've always wanted to speak to someone who knows about watches. I feel like it's something that more and more people are getting into, especially young people. I'm seeing young'uns knocking around with Rollies and all this type of stuff now. Obviously, you've been doing this for how long?
30 odd years.
30 odd
years.
Don't
really want to give me age away, but yeah, 30 odd years. And I mean, I've seen so much change in the watch game. And one of the things that you've just said there, I see young guys around wearing 6, 7, up to 10 grand watches, driving a 30 grand Mercedes, and it's mind blowing. I also get my friends who say, well, my son wants a Hulk or a Batman. I'll say, are you sitting down? And they'll say, why? I'll say, well, they're like between 10 and 15 grand. And my pals will say, well, my watch was only 2 grand and that the children want. But it's nice to aspire to things.
Do you know what's funny, mate? So I drive a Golf, mate, right?
Yeah.
And I want to buy a watch before buying a new car. There's a few different reasons for me.
I drive an ID3, so we're on the same lines.
But you've had the nice cars, haven't you?
Yeah, I've had it all.
I've
still got a few, but I try to keep them a little bit from Vicky, who doesn't quite know about the cars. So that's a joke in itself.
How did you get into watches?
As a kid, I had an obsession, and I mean a young kid, I had an obsession with keys, people's keys, house keys, car keys. And I used to play with them, and it went from keys to watches. And I can remember sitting with my dad and his friends, and I would say, can I try your watch on? I used to try and keep them on. I mean, if you can imagine a little boy with an adult's watch on, it just used to chingle around and that. But I just loved watches, and I always wanted. And my first watch was a Star Wars watch, which was a plastic digital, so I was 10. And then I got an Accurist, which was a dress watch that looks like a classic wristwatch. So brown face, gold plated, brown leather strap. That was one of my favourite watches. Probably at the time, 30 quid. But 30 quid at the time, if you can imagine a pair of football boots, would have been 15 quid. So it's quite a bit of money.
Still a luxury item to have, isn't it?
That's the only thing I've never kept is the Accurist at 30 quid. I don't know where it is.
I bet you wish you kept that now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the things, my dad, most of his life wore an Oris, which is a brand that's quite up and coming now. The watch today is probably worth 10 grand. It would be priceless to me, and that's one of the watches that I don't have.
Can you remember your first nice watch? I'm talking like a lot of money, expensive. What was that process like? How did you get introduced to that?
I said to my father for my 18th, he said to me, what would you like for your 18th? I said, a Rolex. He went, think again. So he did it for me 21st. And what would you like for your 21st? I went, a Rolex. He went, think again. So I bought myself. And my first Rolex, I bought from the Northern Goldsmiths for £400.
What's that in today's money?
30 grand. No, the watch is worth 30 grand now.
Right, okay.
Because it's a really, really rare. But I could have bought a watch for 400 quid that would only be worth 400 quid. But because of its rarity, it was second hand. It was no boxing papers, which is something that I promote, because at the end of the day, if you want to buy a watch, buy a watch. You're not buying the boxing papers. What you can do, stick them on your head as a hat. So if you're buying a watch off somebody in the pub, you want boxing papers. If you're buying a watch off a relative or a friend, it doesn't have to have boxing, as long as you've got recourse. So if one of your pals came to me and said, Hendo, I want to sell this watch, as long as I can prove its provenance and backtrack it, you're buying a watch. If you get the right watch at the right price, happy days.
What's happening, guys? I hope you're enjoying the episode so far. If you are, please hit that like, hit the subscribe button, and press the notification bell so you don't miss another episode. Can you tell straight away by the eye, like, what's real and what's not?
Yeah.
What sort of things you look out for?
The biggest one is, and this is a question that I get asked all the time. Breitlings are very underrated watches. I've had a conversation with a customer who's a Breitling fan. And they have, because they are predominantly pilot watches, they have refraction on the glass. So you can see how good a quality it is. I can be across a bar or sitting on a train, and if it's a fake Breitling, you can tell, because they can't get the glass right. Yes, they're getting better.
What do you think of them, though? Like, for the industry, because I've heard certain people say that actually it's good for the industry. What's your thoughts on fake watches?
Good for the industry. But I've got a lot of people at the moment, and these are real hot topics. So a friend of mine's got a root beer, steel and gold, around about £12,000 to buy, around about £17,000 in the grey market. So he's worried about going on holiday and it getting robbed. So he wants a copy.
Right.
I said, well, they're going to rob the copy if it's a good one.
Yeah.
So I said, what are you worried about? The value or your safety? Because to me, take the watch. It's your personal safety. The copies, the grade AAA or the super clones, which are between 400 and 700 quid, depending on what medium you buy them, are that good that it is hard to tell.
The thing is with them, and the reason why I would say it could be healthy for the industry is because more people are going to have them. More people want the real thing when they know something's fake as well, don't they? If you saw everyone flying around with it, and all my mates had lovely Rolexes on, they're all snide. Yeah. The first thing I'm going to want is, I want the real one. Like, do you know what I mean? So I feel like... So
my era was Golf GTI. That was my ultimate car when I was growing up. So had all the Golf GTIs. So you're saying about watches, obviously it's something to aspire to. If you lived in a street and everybody had a Lamborghini, well,
yeah,
you're not aspiring to anything. I mean, a Lamborghini, you're looking at between 100 and 200 grand. So it's a statement of wealth as much of an appreciation to a car. But if everybody had one in the street, there wouldn't be the desire to have one.
That's a fair point. Like when you bought your first watch, and obviously you realise, it was a £400 watch.
I've got a purple Lamborghini.
Have you really?
I've got a purple Lamborghini.
This guy.
It was so in your face. It was unbelievable.
Did you buy it to show off?
Yeah.
Fair enough, mate.
Right.
Fair enough. I think if anyone buys a Lamborghini, I think
it helped me pulling birds as well for a little while. Not that I need the help pulling birds, but just
does the white beard work?
Yeah, the white beard, the great white walker, or the white.
When you bought that first watch for the 400 quid, right? And obviously you've got the watch that you wanted to get at the time, obviously relative to the money you had and all the rest of it. When did you start taking it seriously? Because obviously you've got into them, to actually sell and make a living.
So, little backstory. It was in the window of Northern Goldsmiths. The manager that wasn't the manager at the time has become a lifelong friend. And I went in, it was £450, and I said, I've got 400 quid. So he said, I'll go and see the next one up. He went, yeah, you can have it for 400 quid. I went, there's a tenner deposit, £10 deposit. I came straight, I went to the bank. I thought I had £394 in the bank. I had £384 in the bank.
Yeah.
I was 10 quid short. I had to go back to the clothes shop that I worked in and borrow £10 out the till. So every single penny that I had bought that watch. Now, I wanted it for myself. It was my first Rolex. A friend of mine plagued me life for 6 months. Sell me it, sell me it. And he offered me £50 profit. Now, I was getting £90 a week for working 5 full days and 30 quid for the extra day that I worked. Don't know how that worked out, but it was the incentive to come in and work the extra day. So 50 quid was half a week's wages. So that, 450, I then bought another watch. I bought a vintage Hoya before there were Tag Hoya. And I flipped that straight away. Now, flipping is a new word that the watch dealers use. But I'm working in a clothes shop and I'm putting watches on my wrist. So people are coming in, more like that, it's for sale. And the owner of the shop said, am I going to get commission for you selling these watches? And it was a joke for a long time. And he let me put a couple in the cabinet where the till was. And all of a sudden, I was making good money selling watches.
Do you think you've always had a business brain though? Like, did you buy the watch when you upgraded to a Hoya or whatever from the road? Like, did you think it's a better watch, or there's more value in this to flip? Is it to make money, or is it to?
Well, I still to this day buy things because I like them. I've just, when I came in, I've just treated myself to a new winter coat. It might be a little bit excessive because it's a Shearling Belstaff, but I'm going away to Poland in a couple of weeks' time, and I know it's going to be cold. That's my Christmas box to myself. Now, buying leather jackets isn't a good investment, but if you like them. But watches are, especially vintage watches. What I always say, modern watches have a price. A year-old Submariner is always going to be worth X amount. Vintage watches, so vintage Rolexes, vintage Hoyas, vintage Omegas are worth what somebody will pay. Same with a classic car, same with a painting, same with any bit of art. It's not what it's worth, it's what somebody is willing to pay.
So that being said, should you buy a watch as an investment then? Because I know you said you promote no boxing papers.
Very, very careful with the word watch and investment.
Yeah.
A customer of mine who was in financial but he's legally trained said 2 years ago, you need to stop using this word watch as investment. If you're not FCA regulated and you're not trained to give financial advice, don't give it.
Yeah.
So all of this is my opinion. A lad who went to a comprehensive school in Chelsea Street. I still buy things because I like them, but watches can be a great investment.
So, to kind of add to that, if I've got 10 grand in the bank and that's all I've got, would you invest? Or would you advise on buying a watch or leave it in the bank?
As a young lad, I would. So I would say have a little bit speculate. I think it's rash what I did with all of my money, but I wanted a Rolex. I did the same with a 911 when I was 23-year-old, which is 3 years on. I bought a 911 and I had to drive to my mum's house to borrow the money to put the petrol in it because I'd spent every single penny buying the car. But that's me, and I've never looked back on things like that. I'm fortunate enough to be able to tell a nice story with it. If you've got 10 grand, I would say the sensible side would be buy a watch for 5 grand. There are watches out there that you can buy from ADs that you will make money on. The cheapest and the best flipper for years has been one of the entry level coloured OPs. So the likes of, they do a Tiffany dial, which is very desirable. Pink, green, are the colours that everybody's always wanted. Those watches were 4,200 quid, and I've seen the Tiffany ones sell for 25 grand.
So if you look at the Rolexes, because I'm particularly interested in them personally, right? And if you look at the likes of the Sprite, the Hulk, the Starbucks, are these just fads, or are these actual items that can hold a value?
What you've got to appreciate is anything that's got a nickname is desirable. The fact that you've reamed them off there, Sprite, everybody wants because it's innovative and it's new. yeah, there's still profit in them. 18 months ago, the profit was unbelievable. I've got friends and customers and who've made more money buying and selling watches than they have at their real jobs.
Yeah,
And
that's
some
it.
of them have got really good jobs.
Mhm.
I mean, we've got doctors, dentists, accountants, barristers, all walks of life buying watches for all different reasons. It's all relative. If you earn 100 grand a year, you can buy a better watch than somebody that earns 30 grand a
Because
year.
in some aspects, it's probably, you can say it being better than buying property in some ways,
Well,
can't
it
you?
has
Like,
been the last couple of years.
aye.
But I think, obviously, again, I'm not, regulated to give investment advice, but with mortgage rates, but you can now invest money and get a return on it. So a lot of people have cashed their watches in and just put it.
Because that's what I mean, even from like a logistical side, like there's no headache of renting it out and doing work to it and you're grafting on it yourself and you're trying to get money from other places to try and put in the property. Like there's no hassle.
Yeah.
You've got the watch, it can sit in a drawer if you want it. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah.
How does that work, Hendo, when, if you're buying watches and stuff like that when you were younger, how does it work where you turn that into a business? Like, how do you become trusted to be a watch dealer? Like, because if I had a Rolex or an AP, or I had the money to get something like that and it was sitting there and I was like, right, I'm going to flog it. Other than going to an AD or something like that, how do I be in a position to make good money on them things?
So one of the questions that we get asked is, I would like to sell this watch. So if I offer £8,000 for a watch, and I say to them, I'm going to advertise it for £10,000.
Mhm.
Oh. So when people say, oh, well, how come I'm only getting? And I sometimes say to them, well, sell it from your watch shop. And they say, well, I haven't got a watch shop.
Yeah.
If I'm scrolling on mediums for sale and I see private sellers, I just skip over them. I'm not going to ring up about a watch that's for sale in the UK or Germany or the US
Mhm.
when it's a private, because I've got no recourse. If it's a dealer, I'll ring the dealer up. I've got a great relationship with a dealer in Poland, and I bought a watch off him on Chrono 24. Obviously the transaction was done through my missus because I'm a technophobe.
Mhm.
And I got in touch with them and said, I bought a Cartier off you last month. Mrs. did it. I'm a dealer, and I've been buying watches off him ever since. And we have a great, trusted relationship. Trusted being, he might try and charge us a little bit more. He might try and, we joke in the trade about link fairies, because on a stainless steel watch, the links are only 50, 60 quid. But on a gold or a platinum watch, the links are like 400, 500 quid.
Aye,
And
that's
believe
it.
it or not, there are some dealers out there that rob the links out of the bracelet.
I can imagine it's money in it. I can imagine.
There's a dealer recently put a box full of links on, and everybody in the trade group has said, that's the links that you owe me. Send them. And but it's a way of generating a little
course.
bit of extra cash. I'd like to think I pride myself on, I get an awful lot of pleasure out of doing service work and repairs for people. People come to me and say, God, I've sent this watch to Rolex, or I've sent this watch to Cartier, and they've estimated 1,200, 1,500 quid, because some of these watch repairs and servicing and new glasses are, and if I can do the work at a fraction of the cost, I get great pleasure.
Probably a fraction of the time as well.
Yeah, well, obviously, Rolex are 16 weeks at the minute to service and polish a watch. It's a lot of time, and
It's a lot of time away from your watch when
well,
you paid
a
that
lot
type
of
of money
people
for it,
haven't
innit?
got the patience to
Aye.
wait. But then, when they've given me the watch and they've rang 3 times in the first week, it's sometimes a little bit stressful. But normally, watch repairs are parts related. It's the testing takes longer than the repairing.
In your journey with watches, Hendo, have you ever been a little bit nervous about selling a watch? Or have you ever been in a situation where you think, I'm going to get robbed here? Because it's a lot of money. Do you know what I mean? So, like, the first thing I'd think if I was going to buy a watch, I might get robbed because people around me haven't got these type of watches.
Yeah.
And I think that would definitely put us off buying that.
One of my favourite brands is Cartier, but I'm also a little bit of an advocate, and I get vilified for this because I think Hublots are good watches. I think they represent very good value for money. So I'd never owned a one. I'd never really seen a one apart from the vintage ones. And when the new Big Bang Rose Gold came out, I bought one from a dealer in London and wore it with pride. Paid 10 grand-ish. And I had it 6 or 7 months, but as my own watch. Everybody was, is that one of them new Hublots? Yeah. I nearly sold it to a really, really famous sports personality from the Northeast.
It wasn't.
Tried
it
it
wasn't
on.
Hendo.
I'm not saying. He tried it on, and I nearly did the deal with him. About 6 weeks later, somebody brought it to my attention about these really, really good fakes.
Right, I see.
And I'd bought a fake.
For 10 grand?
Rang the guy up, said, this watch is for you, and send it down, you get your money back straight away. So there's 2 ways to look at that. Did he know it was fake? Or was he just a good guy?
Yeah, that's true.
I sent the watch back through the post, and I had my money. I was paid my money straight away.
Thing is, though, I'm assuming you didn't get boxing papers.
I did get boxing papers.
You did, and it was still fake.
Boxing papers, and it was fake.
That's crazy, that like.
But I've had the conversation with him since then, and he genuinely didn't know. But this is when that watch was first come out, and it was first faked. And I always say that the best fakes, going back to Rolex, are the Hulk and the Batman. And I've had a Batman recently where I've had to take the movement out because it was that good. And it was only when I took part of the movement out that I realised it was fake. And they're on the market for 600 to 700 quid. And the dealers in London, if anybody comes to me and wants money quickly, I always smell a little bit of a rat.
That's a warning
so
sign,
what we
isn't
say
it?
is, well, no, we need to do due diligence. I need to check the watch, and I need to check you a little bit. We need, obviously, ID, driving license, passport, and obviously, ideally, you need to be paying. But at the end of the day, you pays your money and you takes your choice. So it's I hate when I hear genuine people have genuinely been caught out. But that's where going to a trusted source, going to a dealer. There's a very, very good selling platform called the Dealers Trusted Dealers. And that's why, because you've got recourse. What you need to be looking for is somebody with a shop, with a bricks and mortar company that's VAT registered, that's a legitimate.
If you don't know by now, I run a business called The Content PT. I create content for influencers, PTs, online coaches and fitness brands all around the world. So if you are someone who's in need for sexy content for your social media, or you really want to maintain a competitive edge in your industry, drop me a DM on Instagram.
So payment plan, something that I have done, something that I try and shy away from because sometimes it does end in tears. We've got somebody at the moment that wants to set up a payment plan but take the watch, and I've said no, you set up a payment plan if it's 6 months or 12 months, but the watch stays until it's paid for, every last penny. Can't quite get his head round, but I think that's the individual. So yes, if somebody wanted to set up a payment plan, they could.
But do you ever fear that they might not be able to afford it if they're doing it that way around? Do you ever try and advise?
I can't go that deep. I can't say to somebody, well, can you really afford this? Because I've been brought up with good manners. And
Do you ever feel
it's
that though?
rude.
Like in you, do you ever feel like someone? And I know I suppose it's being judgmental, but if someone comes in, I mean, I used to sell phones for a living, and I used to say it all the time. And it's not my place to say you can't afford it. If they can afford it, or they say they can, then great. But do you ever feel like, can you really afford a $100,000 watch?
The problem is when I've had, and it's happened. This is fact. So I've sold a watch to a young guy, and 3 months later he's come back and said, "Mate, I need the money." I said, "Well, obviously I'll buy it back, but I'll buy it back at a certain price." And then I've had occasion where the parents ring and I'll say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa. You know, I didn't hold a gun to his head. He bought it. I'm offering him a price to buy it back." I could turn around and say, "Well, I don't want to do that." At the end of the day, it's business. You know, some people might not be able to get their head around that you buy for a certain price and you sell for another price, because we do get comments on profit on watches, but again, it's a business.
So in your journey, obviously becoming the watch dealer that you are, and all the things that you've achieved in your life, mate, again, congrats on all that, mate. Do you notice there's a certain type of person who's into nice watches?
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously made us smile, because the old sayings are old sayings because they are good. Never judge a book by its cover. So, but we have a little bit of a thing in the watch world where your stereotypical car dealer would come in and buy a stereotypical Rolex watch.
Yeah.
So a steel and gold blue kit sub is what car dealers aspire to. So when they started the dealership, whether it be for Ford or BMW, they have a stainless steel Submariner, which is half the price, or used to be half the price of a steel and gold. When they've become business manager or sales manager, they treat themselves to a steel and gold.
So it's like a standard.
It's like a standard thing.
Aye.
And I've made you smile,
Aye.
and I've smiled because it was always a car dealer's watch.
Yeah.
Now, you have very successful car dealers that now buy RMs, Richard Mille, and buy the likes of high echelon Rolexes. But your common garden car dealer, it was Submariner and aspiring to Submariner Gold. I have a friend of mine that I'll send this to, and he's a car dealer, and he will have a wry smile because he wouldn't be seen dead with a blue kit sub.
Aye.
But he's got really good taste, and he would always have. You know, I have customers and friends. One guy in particular, if he goes into the golf club or the pub or is away on holiday and anybody knows what his watch is, he sells it. He buys the most obscure watches because he loves when people go, "What's that?" So he would never buy a Rolex, a Cartier or a Panerai. It's all obscure brands. He's got some of the most fantastic watches. And as soon as somebody knows what it is,
it's interesting that, because it clearly shows that he's into watches, not everything else it can bring. And that's what leads us to the next question, right? So how many people do you think, roughly buy watches to get access to certain situations? Because I've seen it myself. I've worked in Dubai. I've worked in places like that where...
So you've just mentioned people with watches and people with places. There's quite a famous, well-known boxer just won a watch for his recent fight. And I've had 30 people ask what it is, tell me about it, and how much is it. It's a rare Hublot that there was only about 30 of them made, and it's £1 million. Very, very famous footballer, good-looking guy, famous for his abs. Not the one in America from London,
right,
but the Spanish one. He has a one. These are high echelon watches. You're never going to be able to pick these people out. They're so famous. But yes, you can pick what people are going to wear, but you do get curveballs. I mean, I'm looking at you we've only just met, but you've got your black kit on, and I could see you with a stainless steel classic Submariner or a sports like a Batman or a Batgirl. That would be the watch.
That's probably the ones I'd gone for as well,
Yeah.
to be fair. It's funny that, isn't it? Because obviously it's just experience. It's like
Yeah.
almost like archetypes of different people, isn't it? Like you kind of, okay, he's into that, that's the watch. And to be fair, it's fashion, isn't it? As well as just a subject of like, that's the watch that you want. And it's like, that's what's always interested in me, because what I'm trying to get at is, when you buy a watch, right, like that, or even, to be fair, any kind of, watch, say past 15 grand, does it actually get you into places? Does it get you into conversations with people? Does it open up doors?
Right. I work with some young lads who are used to having very expensive watches around them. Let's put it into context. £15,000 for a watch is an awful lot of money. I don't care who you are, what money you've got. £15,000 is a lot of money. And it's the price of a Hulk, a Batgirl, a Batman, some of the more specialist. It will, if you're going for a job interview, it might impress somebody. It might not impress the other person on your interview panel. You're going to get into a nightclub, it might just sway you, when you're blagging it at the door. I'm on the guest list. Not that I've blagged.
I am on the guest list.
Not that I've blagged getting into clubs on a guest list. I mean, we can talk about all sorts of things.
You've definitely blagged.
A few years ago, we were on the guest list at Pasha in Ibiza. And we've told some of our friends. And when we've gotten there, obviously I'm on the guest list of a DJ, and they said, "Oh, you're already in." I said, "Well, clearly I'm not, because I'm standing in front of you." He said, "Well, somebody's getting in." I then suddenly quickly checked and thought, that's one of the lads. So I've just said, well, obviously, I'm on the guest list. Do you want me to? And the guy had said, well, can you show us? So I went to my phone, got a message from the well-known DJ and said, that's me. I said, fortunately enough, I don't carry any ID. And he went, go and get yourself in. But if you're a blagger, you're a blagger.
Yeah.
I have always been quite good at blagging my way into nightclubs.
But in terms of business, right?
Yeah.
Do you think by having a nice watch, you are opening up more doors? I don't just mean blagging yourself into situations in nightclubs. Like, do you think it could go against you?
I think for a younger man, let's talk about a journey. You're saying, is it going to be so your journey of growing up? I think if you go through and buy a watch and it be your journey. So I've just said, but you've got a yellow gold necklace on. So you've got darker skin, you would suit a gold watch, maybe in 10 years' time. I always thought, I'm too young for a gold Rolex. There's nothing better. There's nothing better on a wrist than a gold day date. It's so classic. Now, if you had been wearing a gold Rolex day date, which could be as little as £15,000, just cost the 30 grand to buy, you can buy an old one for 15 grand. Now, I would have just thought, cool young guy.
Do you check for that? When you meet someone?
Yeah.
Even when you're like...
My mum is 70-odd-year-old, and she still looks at wristwatch and shoes. If you ain't got good shoes on, she's not interested.
I forget that, like.
But my mum looks at wristwatches. Now, her partner for many years was your epitome of yellow gold Rolex. He's had every different connotation of it, and it suits him. He's a larger-than-life character, and that was always his thing. She's not the biggest fan of gold watches. She would prefer a Cartier on a leather strap or a Breitling. I mean, my mum, 70-odd-year-old, wears a gents full-size Breitling on a leather strap. It's her favourite watch.
With, obviously, time being the most valuable commodity in life, it's funny, isn't it? Because, obviously, being in the watch game, how many people do you think are not even telling the time on that watch? Do you think it's more about the actual piece of jewellery than what it's used for now? Like how many people are
I've
actually...
just been given a watch off a very, very good friend, customer of mine. I said, it doesn't work. So me, he only wanted is put a bit of weight on. And if you're watching, you have put a bit of weight on. And he wanted an extra link in the bracelet. I've gotten the watch, it didn't work. I'm nearly £1,000 in of my own money because I can't ask him. He's bought a watch that would never ever work. It's a blingy.
Aye.
And it's not meant to look like that. It's not meant to be like that. And I'm about £1,000 in getting it to work, getting it right. But that's because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist.
So, you know, with people who do that to watches, because I've done my research now on, like, I'm looking at watches and this, that, and the other. You see a lot of people who bling them out. Does that actually devalue the watch?
It does.
Does it?
But they don't half look good when they're blinged.
That's what I mean. They look mint. So you think...
Can I just say something? You buy a Golf and you want to put 18-inch wheels on, you put 18-inch wheels on. There's nobody, unless they're illegal, unless you've got baldy tyres, you can't be stopped. So Rolex, if you put a diamond dial and a diamond bezel on and send it back to them, they won't service it. So yes, there's a regulator there, but wow, doesn't a Rolex not look good with a diamond bezel on? I'm not the advocate for them, like I am an advocate for no box on papers, but aftermarket bling still looks good.
Has the
horses for courses?
I know that's fair enough, because I do like them when they're blinged out. Like, I think if you're gonna do it,
do you know what it is, right? I just
mean?
think an entry level watch, and whether you're a boy, girl, or indifferent, steel and gold Rolex with a diamond dot and diamond bezel is incredible. My sister's got the watch. She's 18 years younger than me. One of my friends is 10 years older than me, so he's old, and he's got the exact same watch. So 60-year-old
so he's about
to 30-year-old. Yeah, about 102. I don't need you. I've got a whole squad back in Jesmond taking the piss out of me. But no, it's blinged watches have a purpose. There's nothing better than going on holiday, nice pair of shorts, white T-shirt, steel and gold Rolex with a few diamonds.
What's a smartwatch situation done to Rolex to watches? Sorry,
a friend of mine has bought many watches. When I first met him, he said to me, "Why would you have more than one watch?" And then I said to him one day, "You're on your third watch now." He went, "Yeah." And then one day he rang me up and he said, "I've got an Apple Watch. Let's, you know, that's the brand. It does exactly what it says on the tin. They are great. My watchmaker sets the watches with his Apple Watch because when the Apple Watch is right, it's right. Obviously, we test watches all day, every day. That's something that gets done.
Does it bother you personally, though?
No,
like,
if somebody's...
Because you can't wear two watches, can you?
My friend has got rid of his expensive watches and bought an Apple Watch. He's just recently said, it's about time I had a good watch again. He says, because when we go out, I feel like I could do with a one. I feel like I could need a one. I said, well, only want one if you want one. He says, yeah, I want a steel Daytona. It's like the ultimate Rolex, a stainless steel Daytona. But he's quite cool. He doesn't want the white dial, what everybody wants. He wants the black dial. He's just bought a white car, so it's not like he's not as opposed to buying something a bit flash. But yeah, the Apple Watch works for him in the gym, works for him at work. And he said, I would never wear the expensive watch for work anymore. I would always look after my expensive watch and wear the Apple Watch for work. He sits at a desk, so your watch will get scratched anyway.
Yeah, that's true. Do you think
if my missus is watching, she's just getting a gold Rolex and she's scratched the living daylights out of it?
I was going to say that though. Like, so to me, I was just saying to Kurt there. So when we were driving down, I was looking at it was a Datejust, right? But it was like I think they called it the James Bond, to be honest. I don't know if it's supposed to be called that, but people had been mentioning it in the forum, right? And it was like a Datejust silver white face. It was fucking lovely. It was only $5,500, $6,000 or something. It's old. It's old.
I'll get you one a bit cheaper.
For me, mate, if I got a watch like that, I would not tack it off my wrist. I wouldn't care how bashed it got in.
Yeah.
Obviously, I wouldn't want to like smash it. But
Well, I don't. My vintage watch collection, I leave them the way they are. I don't polish them. Yes, I service them. I've got one that doesn't work, which I haven't serviced. But I just think watches are meant to be worn. It's something that, and if it's got a little mark on it, you might have a little good story about.
Battle scar, isn't it?
Battle scar. Yeah.
What type of people do you serve watches to? I know we've obviously talked about like everyone's different, and you don't really know. You obviously there's the salesman type and all the rest of it. Have you served many celebrities in that yourself?
I have.
You got any stories about that?
Over the years, I've got some good celebrity customers that have become friends. But I find talking about it, and especially on camera, could bite you in the bum. So I'll just leave me celebrity.
No, that's understandable.
I'll leave me celebrity clients to their own. But I have had some good ones. I've had some good nights out with some very interesting characters. Because if I'm supplying a footballer with a watch, I'd like some tickets for a game.
That's fair
if
enough.
I'm supplying a boxer with
it comes with the territory, doesn't it?
I'd like some tickets for some boxing.
Comes with it. What's the most expensive watch you've ever sold?
Up until recently, the most expensive watch I ever sold, and then one of the nicest watch I ever sold, was £57,000, and everybody thought I was insane for buying the watch and then trying to sell it. That watch today is worth about £157,000, but of late I've sold some expensive, quite a few watches over 100 grand.
Do you think when someone's buying their first watch, do you think they should be looking for something that could potentially appreciate?
If you're buying your first watch, buy something. You've just said you've seen this lovely stainless steel. I just kind of think of a better watch to buy. Is your first watch, your last watch, forever watch, whatever. If you have it a couple of years, an upgrade or downgrade, you've had it. Buy. We've touched on. Buy what you like.
What do you think of brands like Casio and stuff like that?
You know what it is, right? Everybody always says how I like that. I like every watch. Casio G-Shock is one of the best watches ever made because it does exactly what it says on the tin. Before my knees were shot and I used to go out running, I always wore a Casio G-Shock. Because I like to see how long I'd been running for.
I've got a collection of G-Shocks, to be fair.
The camouflage G-Shock is an ultimate watch.
Does it make you think personally, Hendo, any different about someone if they were wearing the G-Shock to the Rollie?
No.
Or to the Richard Mille or any of them type of things?
No, because that person might be wearing a G-Shock for a reason. They might be in Newcastle City Centre for a stag do. You ain't going to wear your Rolex or your Richard Mille. And I speak from experience. I have been on stag do's when boys haven't come back with leather jackets, haven't come back with watches. Some very interesting stories about where the watches went, how they got relieved from the watches. But that's for another podcast.
Yeah, of course. So here we are on the second podcast. no, that's unbelievable, that, mate. With, everything you've done, what do you think is the most... You've got
us smiling. So if I told you about a story about a friend of mine on a stag do that woke up with a young lady that wasn't his wife, and when the young lady that wasn't his wife left, she left with his Rolex that was on the bedside table.
I bet you that's kind of common. It's probably what got her in the bed to start with.
My thing on that is... Don't leave your watch on the bedside table. I'm not condoning what he did, but just don't take your watch off and leave it on the bedside table.
So were you gutted when you lost the watch? No, that's unbelievable. With the, obviously, again, YouTube is like a search engine. Everyone's on there looking, like I'm one of them. I come across different names, Nico Leonard, all these type of lads who are promoting watches and doing everything they're doing in the watch world. What's your thoughts on those type of people? Do you think it's good for the industry?
Nico and I have a little bit of a I'm pro Hublot. He hates them. Absolutely hates them. Paul Thorpe is a really good pal of mine, big YouTuber. Bought me first watch off Paul 30 years ago. That gives my age away. I wish I still had it because it was a great buy. Paul comes up to Newcastle with the watch community. We have a great following, a great love of each other. I love all of this. I said to you today, when I came in, I had to ask Harry what a podcast was. I didn't know what I was coming to today because I'm a technophobe. I can just say work my phone. I struggle with the Sky remote, but that's why I have a partner.
Not got a Fire Stick, like?
I don't even know what one of them is. No, I do know, because I do want a Fire Stick. So if there's anybody with a Fire Stick, I'm in the market. But yeah, the Nico is such a larger-than-life character that you can't help. I find him, because I know him, I find him amusing. I find him quite funny when he's a little bit larger than life, shall we say. But everybody, I always say on YouTube, I quite like the sound of my own voice. I'm a good chatter, which is what we've been able to do this so well today.
I know that there's, with car dealers, a lot of car dealers are accepting like exclusive luxury cars and that, and supercars. They're accepting watches to trade in for cars and that.
Well, you are well versed, because up until late, because I know a car dealer that's 30 grand out of bed on watches that he's bought, because what he's done, he wouldn't dream of buying a car and sitting on it. But he's bought the watches and sat on them, and he's 30 grand out of bed, as in the watches have devalued. Now, that's not good business. Now, a lot of the car dealers have been advertising. We've underwritten. I've got one car dealer, and you know who you are. Don't ask me for prices anymore, because he was... if I'm given a price, I expect to get something eventually. But he's been getting a price off me and buying them and then selling them himself. Not really the thing to do. But yes, the supercar guys have been taking watches, because watches and cars go hand in hand.
But cars obviously depreciate so much more than watches, don't they? Yeah. So why do they go hand in hand? Or do you mean just from a trend point of view?
It's just a trend. It's just a trend. You can use, at the end of the day, you can use anything as trade, payment, currency.
And is that accepted? Just in general? If I came to you for a watch, I said, well, I've got a Golf
We've
there.
recently took a pony in Part X on a watch.
Mad that.
Yeah.
But flogging the horses.
My goddaughters ride.
Wasn't dead.
My goddaughters ride the pony. So there's great value for money in that deal. But yes, the pony was a Part X deal on a watch.
What would you say is the best entry-level watch for someone? The go-to where you're probably not going to lose money.
Well, you know, my favourite brand is Cartier. I think somebody's wearing a Cartier, they've got great style. But I think at this moment in time, Omega is really good value for money, right up to the moment, as in quality, trend. So probably I would fly the flag for Omega, and you get a good deal.
Do you know what it is? And this is just, again, my probably my ignorance to the watch world, if you like. But every time I walk past like a Tudor or something like that, or like any kind of brand like that, I look at the watch and I'm like, that's just not a Rolex though. Well, that's what I always think in my head.
All the Tudor watches are back catalogue watches. They're all sort of reincarnations, reworks of older Rolexes. So they've got the quality, they've got the credibility. They just don't begin with R and end in X.
Yeah, now, but the prices are still sky high on them, aren't they? And you look at some of them, I'm thinking, but it's just not. I'd rather spend a couple of grand more.
A Tudor's going to be half to a third of its equivalent Rolex. It's a big chunk. So,
true.
So a Tudor Black Bay is £3,000. Rolex Submariner's £8,000. Big difference.
So you know the likes of Patek and all that, right? Where have they come out of? Am I saying it right?
Patek Philippe, yeah.
Where's that? Because I'd never heard of them a few years ago.
One of the oldest watch brands. It's a classic watch brand, but young guys and rich people have made it even more famous, more desirable. But there's a famous advertising slogan, and it was 25 years ago, a picture of a father and a son, and it was, you never really own a Patek Philippe, you're just looking after it for the next generation.
That's
Now,
nice.
that would be lovely if you could buy a watch and give it to your son. But Pateks are so expensive now, and so much more on the resale market, that everybody flips them, or most people flip them.
What do you think of Richard Mille?
I'll just stay on the fence to that one.
You're on the fence. You're not bothered.
Yeah. No, they are exactly what they say on the tin. It's a status symbol. It's not a tool watch, so it's not got no purpose other than it's expensive and it's flash. Every racing driver in the world, every sports celebrity either has a one or has a one named after them, if you're that famous. They are amazing. I've worn a one. My financial advisor was the first person that I ever know, and I actually drove to his house and said, "Are you all right?" "What do you mean?" I said, "You've got classic watches." He bought that watch. It was £47,000. He paid 42 grand for it when it came out. He had it 10 years and he made £100,000.
Fucking hell, mate. Do you?
So who was the fool that day?
See?
Because I said to him, "Are you all right in the head? Are you having a midlife crisis? Are you okay?" And the only reason he sold it was fear of getting it robbed.
Right,
so that's
mate.
another podcast.
It is, isn't
for
it?
another day.
Do you? Obviously, you've sold a vast array of watches, all prices. Do you ever think, this is taking the piss a bit, this is just stupid money for a watch? Or do you appreciate every watch for what it is?
18 months ago, I was starting to get concerned because I was selling watches that I was worried that were overpriced. Now, I can sell you a Hulk or a Batman today, and I think you're paying the right price. So 18 months ago, it was scary, and I've sold watches and people have lost money. But it didn't
Comes with the game, though,
I
doesn't
didn't hold a gun to their head.
Aye. Yeah. What would you say? I kind of want to wrap it up with this question, and I want to ask you this because obviously, again, everything you've done throughout your career, and I want to know, like, what do you think is the negative side of the watch world, or owning a nice watch, other than, of course, getting potentially robbed?
Well, that is a big down, and a friend of mine's just had what I would call not a very flash watch robbed for him, which I find, but he was robbed, but he wasn't hurt. The negative, I'm a watch fan. Watches, it's my passion.
Yeah.
I get all swoony over vintage watches that are worth 200 quid. It's a passion. So to me, there's no downside to a 20 quid watch, a 200 quid watch, a 20 grand watch. If everybody, it's when a guy comes in and says to me, when the missus comes in, "Don't mention the price." And I'm like, well, it's nothing to do with me, mate.
Yeah.
It's your wife. I went to a house in London recently, and the guide said to me, "If she asks, it's 2 grand. I went, "Are you crazy? You can see there's a 20 grand Panerai." I said, "Mate, you don't insult your wife's intelligence. She can clearly Google it, and she clearly knows that you're lying to her." But they have obviously this little game. When I went in the house, she went, "Go on, you can go in his man cave and you can do what you need to do." She was virtually saying, he tells me a whole pack of porkies, a whole pack of lies.
They're going to do what they can.
Telling me, obviously, that he was spending 2 grand on a 20 grand watch. Beautiful, pink gold Panerai.
Is it hard to
I'll
distinguish?
not mention his postcode or who he is because I'll get him into bother.
Is it hard to distinguish when someone's got, an Accurist on or something like that? Like, is it hard to think, like, well, you like watches, you probably would afford a nice, you would like a nicer one, but you probably can't afford it.
To the thing.
'Cause like that.
So people, my last holiday, I bought an Omega for 800 quid and I wore it for my holiday. It hadn't been polished. As soon as I came back, got service polished, it was advertised and sold. but it was quite a good watch for me to wear on holiday. Obviously, people weren't coming up and saying, "Oh, you're the watch dealer."
But that's different for you though, because you've had watches worth all this money on. So like it's
claim
like if I drove Lamborghinis and that, I wouldn't think now to drive a Golf because I know I could have a Lambo.
Yeah.
But if I'm into cars, for instance, and I've got the Golf, and I'm telling everyone I'm into cars, it's almost like, he probably wants a nicer car, doesn't he? Do you know what I mean? So I feel like, could that go against you?
I've got a friend of mine with a Lamborghini and a Porsche and a Ferrari, and he drives a VW. But he drives a VW, and he knows he's got those cars, and it doesn't really bother him when somebody cuts him up in traffic. He's not going to shout and say, "I'll be back in me Ferrari," or "I'll be back in me Lamborghini."
Yeah, I think I would like.
You either know. The question that we touched on previous one was, obviously, when people travel, you're not going to wear your best watch. So again, don't judge a book by its cover. I was in Lake Como a few years ago for a wedding, and the Italians walk in and they've got the fantastic clothes and the great watches because they live local. You aren't going to travel to a holiday destination with your best watch on, unfortunately, unless you go to Dubai where it's safe. But
Are you ever in them situations, Hendo, where you're like, I'm going to have to put a good watch on here?
I do.
Like, I'm going to...
When I go to weddings, when I go to functions, I'm expected to have something. And I occasionally rise to the occasion. We were going out for dinner, and Jack said to me, "You're not wearing that. You're going to have to wear something better." And we were going for dinner and then going to boxing. And he went, "You'll have to put this on because somebody's going to ask you what you're wearing." So I wore a brand new Sky Dweller yellow gold, but I chose the black rubber strap because it suits me.
It's interesting, that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
So
that,
sometimes rise to the occasion.
Do you ever feel the pressure though? Because you are the watch guy. Like, I've seen you on YouTube and that. I know you didn't know much.
My claim to fame is I was in Greece earlier in the year, and it was on our first day, and me and my missus came off the beach, and we were well oiled. We've been drinking all day.
I went, mate.
And we walked up, and there was a little bar on the corner, and I said, "Oh, they've got the frosted glasses." I said, "We'll have a last pint before we get ready, go out." So she's gone off to the loo, and I've gone to pay, and the guy says to me, "Oh, your drinks are taken care of." So I thought, well, Vity's got no money. She's got no euros, and she very rarely pays for the drinks, and I don't know anybody in Skiathos. And the barman walked away, and he went, the guy at the end of the bar says, "I watch you on YouTube." I says, "It's the first drink that I've ever had from it."
I bet you he still tells everyone he met David Ginola wrong.
There you go. So the next day, I've gone down, because I was pissed when I bumped into him. Gone down the next day, him and his missus were drinking mojitos. I bought them a mojito. He'd said, "I'd love a nice watch." My dad's into watches. His dad came up recently from Manchester and bought a £19,000 Daytona. That's off, and buying us a beer, and me buying a cocktail back. So
just relationships, isn't it? Networking.
Yeah. And the guy was lovely, and I think he will be a customer. But when he's made a few quid.
Ian, thanks for coming on the show, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.